After all these days, Jungkook decided to go with Vine to the grocery store as she's been doing it alone. The police might have quietened down too, so Vine agreed too. When they both were ready, she wore her shoes and held his hand while smiling. Vine, let's go together, like this. Jungkook smiled at her and held her hand back with him, feeling proud in his heart for relying on someone. Earlier, he would never do that, relying on anyone. They both smiled at each other and opened the door to start a new beginning. But as soon as they stepped out the house, someone electrocuted Jungkook from behind. The shock was high enough to take him down in an instant. He fell down on the floor, unable to move, while his eyes were still slightly open. Vine was about to scream in fear, but before that, the man put a handkerchief on her mouth, which made her fall down on his arms. That man looked at Jungkook, whose eyes were slightly open, and said to Jungkook, "If you want her back, we will text you. You just need to wait without trying anything funny, like calling the police," he said while putting the burner phone in Jungkook's pocket. He went away putting Vine in his black van and drove all the way to their warehouse as Jungkook's eyes closed down, not knowing if he'll remember anything that man said, because Jungkook wasn't in his senses all the time. After an hour, Jungkook woke up in the hospital, completely blank as to what happened. Then the doctor came to tell him that he was unconscious, so some nearby people came to take him to the hospital. Jungkook sighed and then suddenly remembered about Vine. He looked here and there to find Vine, but couldn't find her, so he asked the doctor, "Isn't someone here for me?" Doctor, "No one's here. They all left after admitting you here." Saying that, the doctor went away, and he got worried about Vine. He decided to call her, but as his hand went towards his pocket, he found the burner phone there. He got confused looking at it, and suddenly remembered what really happened. Before he fainted, he clenched his fist and teeth while thinking about that man. He almost had tears in his eyes as he remembered Vine. He immediately got up, putting some money on his bed, and ran to the outside. Not caring about whether he gets caught or not, he switched on his old phone, for the police could track it. He contacted his men as he needed a car, and he couldn't go home because of the police. When he got the car after a few minutes, he sat in it completely ready, waiting for the message to come on the burner phone. He waited and waited. His legs started shivering from the inside, and he was having all kind of thoughts, sitting alone. The rage ran through his blood and veins that were all visible. He tried to control himself from crying and save those emotions for when he sees Vine. Finally, the phone vibrated, and he immediately looked at the message, which was a location sent to him. Then a call came on the phone, for he picked it up in an instant and said, "Vine, Vine, is that you? Where are you?" So Vine is her name. She wouldn't tell me, no matter how much I would beat her. The man on the other side of the phone spoke to Jungkook. Jungkook, you beat her? You know who I am, right? You know what it means to mess with. Listen, we all know who you are, but you don't know who we are. If you want your girl, you need to lower your voice and quietly do what we say. Jungkook screamed. Why did you even beat her? What did she ever do to you? I told you to lower your voice, otherwise, the outcome will not be good. Jungkook calmed down, although he didn't want to, and said, what do you want? Just come at the sent location. I called you to tell you we can track the burner phone, so you don't play any tricks. Involving the police will only be bad for you. Saying this, the man cut the call, for Jungkook was frustrated and raging in anger. He hit the steering wheel several times in anger, while he kept screaming. The fact that she was getting beaten took control over him. He forgot all the other emotions that were given by wine. He only had anger at that time. He looked straight and pulled the gear, for he started driving without caring about the speed limits. He just drove as fast as he could, whereas his eyes gained dark devilish energy again that he used to have. His eyes got empty like a black hole. There was nothing. As he reached the location, he saw a man. Jungkook pointed his gun towards him, but he said, throw your guns or you won't find her. Only I know where she is. Jungkook, then why don't you tell me before I kill you with these? Okay, shoot me. As soon as they hear it, they will kill Vine. If you want that, you can shoot. Jungkook gave him a death glare and wanted to kill him right at that moment. But Vine gave him the courage to not do that and throw his guns. As he did that, the other man started searching Jungkook's body, for he took out the other guns and asked Jungkook to follow him. Jungkook reached the place where he saw Vine and nothing, or no one else. He saw her in a miserable situation. She was sweating crazily and sitting in her corner while hugging her knees. She was scared to death until she saw him. His eyes, that were devilish, softened up in an instant, and he quickly ran there to hug her, so tightly, while she hugged him back, having tears in her eyes. She didn't cry at all until Jungkook showed up, and she hugged him. Jungkook broke the hug and started scanning her whole body, while saying, where did they hurt you, huh? Tell me. Tell me and I'll just kill them all. You were all alone and I. Vine held his shoulders and looked in his eyes for a few seconds before hugging him back again. Yes, I was really, really scared. But I'm all okay now, now that you arrived. You should calm down too, Vine said, although she was shivering from inside. But when she looked at Jungkook, she knew that he was suffering more than her. Jungkook, thank you. Thank you so much for bearing all of this until I came. I'll take you out of here right now. Let's go. Jungkook broke the hug and held her hand to take her. Suddenly they were surrounded by all the men from all the sides. In between them, Shanizel appeared and glared at Jungkook while smirking. Then he looked at Vine and said, I told you already. If you don't believe me, you will see the proof with your own eyes. Then you got to come with me. Jungkook, I don't have time for your nonsense. Let us go quietly, and I might let you live. Shanizel laughed and said to Jungkook, you're already seeing the proof, aren't you? Jungkook looked at Vine, all confused, but cared nothing less, until Vine held his arms, and while scattering from fear, she said, let's go quietly from here. Don't kill anyone, please. Shanizel was looking for Vine all this time, because Vine, who was poor, asked her friends for a job recommendation, and she told Vine that she can be his secretary as long as she can manage his schedule. Her friend didn't know what kind of person Shanizel was, so Vine applied for it, and soon she was hired. She was really happy on the first day. He went to the club to play with girls, followed by Vine. It was all fun until Vine saw him beating that girl. She was raged and tried to stop, and in the end threatened him. But he started playing with Vine then. Vine was traumatized after that because she couldn't escape from his grip. When she finally escaped, she rented a cheap apartment to hide there, and she didn't have any money until Jungkook showed up. But now that Shanizel got Vine back, he told her who she's been living with, a serial killer. She refused to believe it, as he was so good to her in all those days that she couldn't imagine this. She didn't let herself believe this and just believed in Jungkook, that he isn't like that. She kept waiting for him to come and tell her himself that he can't be a killer. Vine, let's go quietly from here. Don't kill anyone, please, she said while stuttering, looking at him. Jungkook, why are you so scared and shivering? I'm here, okay? Calm down. I will never do anything that disappoints you. Believe in me, he said while holding her hand and giving her a smile. Shanizel started laughing, for Jungkook looked at him. Shanizel, I'll never do anything that disappoints you? Huh, it's all crap. Why don't you tell her who you actually are? The serial killer Jungkook, who is the most wanted criminal right now. Jungkook, is that what you told her? She will believe me without caring about who I am. I can explain her later. It's your time that is up. Shanizel ordered his men in anger and with a loud voice, kill him at once and save her from me. They started coming to him with all the weapons, like bats, rods, axes. But he too isn't the most wanted criminal, just by words. He started kicking, dodging, and beating them, but didn't kill anyone, as it wasn't even necessary. By the time he was done, he looked at Vine and was about to go to her, but she took a step back, for he stopped in confusion. Vine, no, please, don't come. Are you really a serial killer? You murder people? Jungkook, Vine, let's go home and talk about it, okay? Vine, what home? We don't have a home. I thought it was. But I was just a foolish kid who helped you without caring about who you are whatsoever. We don't have a home, Jungkook. To be continued.